All right, Boomy, recording. Nice to meet you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are
It's
welcome.
awesome,
And
awesome to
shout
be
out
here.
to
So really excited.
yeah, shout out to Tomek for getting us connected. Thank you. And as we just discovered, we were both at the European Halving Party together, the Bitcoin Film Fest, put on by Tomek and Pierre Corbin, who do excellent work with trying to help accelerate the Bitcoin culture through film especially. That was a great event. We did not make it for the actual halving. Did you make it for the countdown? Were you one of those crazies up at like 2:30 a.m.?
I had to, yes. It was an amazing event. Yeah, definitely shout out to Tomek and the team. So they put so much love in it. That was super cool. And yes, I made it through the halving there. So we had a bunch of cocktails and drinks, and we're waiting for the countdown. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Nothing happened actually. That like it just
yeah.
kept going. So
Well, fees spiked through the roof, but we were fast asleep, man. We were
yeah.
passed out, weren't we?
Next time it needs to be a PM, not an AM.
Well, that means we'll probably have to be in a different country. So anyway, in
You-
2028, we'll figure it out and go to the country where it'd be like at 7 or 8 p.m. at night. Where you could...
that's the plan. Exactly. That's good. Yeah.
So, Lauren,
That's
what's your question for Boomy?
Is Noster and Zaps better than Twitter?
that's a trick question, right? Um, yes, I think so. At least I'm very excited about it, and I think it gives so much more possibilities to discover great content, but also then have different incentive models, like allow creators to have different revenue streams and so on. So I think that's an exciting combination.
Now, do you understand? Have you ever been zapped on Noster?
Once
Yeah,
by Ben Weeks,
Yeah.
right.
because I was trying to figure out how it worked and how the wallet connected to Noster. And I didn't know how it works. And Samuel was connecting it to Noster. So I'm like, yeah, I want sats, obviously. And I think I worked it out with Ben Weeks and he sent me some
Do you remember what wallet he connected you with?
on the Noster wallet. I think, I don't know,
Right, well, Boomy might be able to help you out.
probably on my only wallet. Yeah.
I don't know. I would hope that you might have used Alby. That's the
Alby.
case.
Do you recognize
But
Alby? ALBY?
The B thing.
The B thing.
Yeah.
That's this guy.
Oh,
yay!
yeah.
So Ben would have set
Sh-
you
sh-
up with Get Alby.
No,
Why not?
he didn't.
How on earth would you have got
I
a zap?
don't know.
Okay. So if
there are
you
many
recognize
different options. So that's the nice thing, right? About Lightning and Nostr, that you can choose whatever wallet and whatever client works for you, depending it's on the browser or in the mobile phone
I
and
think it's
so
just
on.
my wallet of Satoshi.
But why did you recognize the B, Alby?
Because, okay, I think it was in Prague, I got a couple pins from it and I lost a pin, or I thought I lost it. So I went back for another one because I really liked it. But it was just, the pin was in my bag. So I got 3 pins of Albi now.
Merch works.
Yay, nice. Okay. Pretty
Excellent.
cool. Yeah. So did I understand it correctly? You got the pins now, or you lost a pin
I
and
got
need
the
another
pins. Don't worry, I got
one?
the
Okay.
pins.
Okay. Otherwise,
So
I might have known somebody who can get you another one or
So what how would you explain what Alby is to a 13-year-old?
Albi is the tool um, that allows you to take control and to use Nostr and to use the Lightning Network. And the important thing here is, and I think we always should mention that, I think that's still still a bit tricky, but is that you don't need anybody else. You own the keys, you own your own. That's the hard thing, I know, I don't know, but you own your own identity. So you have your own keys that you can then use within the Noster network. I think we need a better word for keys, right? What do you think? Do you understand what keys are already?
Yeah, keys are like, hold on, I might be thinking of the wrong thing now.
What are you thinking of? Like, there is nothing
I'm
wrong.
thinking of the wallet.
The wallet, okay,
But
yeah.
I'm thinking of the codes.
The codes. You mean the words,
Yeah,
the passphrases. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that's keys. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, you got it.
Okay, yes, I know what they are.
That's cool. Yeah, because in the physical world, right, when we can touch each other, then we can see us, and we can have fingers and fingerprints and so on. We can shake hands and whatnot. But in the digital world, that's a bit harder. And there, like an identity, like myself, is often represented in computers with keys. So where I can have a signature, I can write something, I can sign it, and in the computer space, that's done with a key, with a private key. So, and you need to own that, because that's kind of your signature. How you can have a letter that you send on the internet is, then everybody knows that it's actually from you. So I think that's a bit an important case, that nobody else can do that only you can do it. Because if you write something on the internet, how do you know that it's actually from you and not from somebody else? So because if you only write the name there, then everybody could write the name. So that's why you need to sign it, and for that you have the keys. And with Alby, you can manage these keys. That is kind of easy to do that. But you still own the keys. You have your own key, and you don't need somebody else to hold the keys for you. No.
Okay, so it's just basically just a place to keep your keys. Is that it? Basically?
A place to keep your keys, exactly, and then to use your keys either for making payments or for making notes and messages on things like Noster. Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. So now you are a Noster expert. Go and think of something to post. Maybe Boomy will find you and zap you.
We need to get you more zaps, exactly. So yeah.
What's your name? What's your name on Noster? Do you remember?
I knew it before.
We need to get you and your friends all on Noster then. Exactly.
I got myself on Noster, Samuel's on Noster.
Well, Samuel is Samtoshi.
It's the catchphrase. Laura one.
Going up forever, Lauren.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what you are on Noster.
Yeah.
So if anybody listening, find Lauren on Noster by going up forever, Lauren.
But with a cow profile picture.
And you have a cow as your and then send some zaps.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Now it's in the hands of the
Do you know the Alby, not Alby, the Lightning Piggy, the piggy bank?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it.
Cool. You got one of these?
No.
We don't actually. No. Of all of the merch that we have in the house, no, we don't have the Lightning Piggy yet.
Okay. So because I think the cool thing there, I don't know. I don't have a piggy bank, so next event we should go and get some and make one together. Because I think the nice thing is actually you could even connect it. So whenever somebody zaps you on Noster, you would see it in the piggy bank and the light go up and something like that. So I think that's pretty cool.
I've just been informed by Samuel, who's hanging by the doorway here, that he has a Lightning Piggy. But without a screen, he says.
Okay.
At conferences, there are Lightning Piggy workshops for the kids, I think. And it's basically you just make your own Lightning Piggy or you 3D it.
You did that in Madeira, is it?
Do it.
But he
but
right,
he
okay.
did it.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for your questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good-
much.
Yeah, bye.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
So, Michael, what's up? What do you want?
Thank you.
Nothing like having privacy in your podcast studio spare bedroom. I'm gonna have to step it up, you know. Yeah, let's find out who you are. What's you know, the people that listen to this show, the plebs that tune in, they love learning about other people, what's brought them to Bitcoin, how, why, what they were doing beforehand. So yeah, take us back. Where did you grow up as a young man, and what were you doing? What were you studying, and what fiat career did you end up
Yeah,
in?
yeah, cool. So I'm from Germany. I'm actually from the countryside, Bavarian countryside. Tiny village with 300 people and so on. So was actually pretty cool to grow up there. It's still pretty cool to go there. But I moved to the city, and I am a software engineer, I would say. I got a technical background. I got into programming actually because yeah, quite early on I got excited about the internet. Like that was the late 90s where it was super exciting to suddenly be able to be connected with people from different places, right? I was still living in the small country, 300 people on the countryside, the 300 people village. And yeah, the internet allowed me then suddenly to be connected with people from somewhere else, from different countries and different places. And that was super exciting. That was the time back then when you also did need to do long distance calls to connect into to connect to the internet and whatnot. So it was super expensive. You know, I remember sitting with like this huge computer in the doorway where the phone line was at my parents' house, like the half night because I was chatting with people from places. But that was pretty cool, and I think that also kind of motivated me to learn more because then I, you know, published the first websites and things like that. People were visiting that, and yeah, through that, I got more and more into programming. Always like focused on the web. I also then studied kind of part computer science, part business administration, kind of a mixture there. Also, the reason for that was always programming was never for me like it was always a tool, right? It was for me. It's not I didn't want to program for the sake of programming. It was always like the tool to do something, to achieve something, right? To create something. But that was the exciting part, and that's why also the study there was the idea. Okay, what I need to do something with it, and that's why there was the business side in there. And yeah, then I got also a bit into some of the web startups. That was then like the early web 2.0 era. But I ended up running a software consultancy for many years, where we worked with a lot of startups but also medium-sized businesses on various projects. Actually, it was always super exciting to like kind of, you know, have these new ideas and new challenges and kind of solve them. And we did a lot of open source work. We were pretty active back then in the Ruby and the Ruby on Rails community, in the early, like in the JavaScript community, in the Node.js community back then. Also organized a bunch of events, like one of the early Node camps, for example, here in Cologne, like Rails camps, Ruby events, and so on. And that also happened then that I did more and more fintech applications somehow. A bit more like a coincidence. Like what we did there was like, for example, prepaid card systems, or we built the backends for certain merchant panels. And yeah, during these times, I also got into or heard for the first time about Bitcoin. Ignored it because I didn't care about money at all back then. I kind of dismissed it a bit in the beginning as just another, digital currency, something like Linden dollar or like the money that you have in World of Warcraft and so on. And it was like, whatever, I don't care. And it took me a while to realize that it's actually the same thing that got me excited about the internet in the first place. That I can, with the internet, I could communicate with other people around the world. And now with Bitcoin, I could have an economic transaction with people around the world, a direct economic transaction with people around the world without an intermediary in the digital space. I have this peer-to-peer aspect of that. And yeah, that then slowly got me excited about it, and I fell down the rabbit hole. Suddenly money was not that boring anymore, and it got more interesting, and also seeing, okay, how money works and what money actually is. So I appreciate, or I'm very thankful for Bitcoin, for that Bitcoin taught me a lot there that I would have otherwise never ever have looked at it. And it's actually crazy that, yeah, most people, I guess, are like me, do not even don't know about that, or not taught about that. So, and I think Bitcoin is changing that, or changed that already, and is changing that a lot. So I think that's one of the biggest achievements, actually. I also think about Bitcoin. But yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole. I actually stopped working then at some point at the agency, and focused more on Bitcoin, wanted to learn more about it in the technical space. I was traveling a lot back then in various countries. Did some work also there in East Africa, for example, with mobile money. So there was the early use cases for Bitcoin remittances that came in there, which was pretty cool. And yeah, over the time that then led to what I'm doing now, working on Alby, where the idea basically then is, or yeah, where the idea basically is, we can now use this open peer-to-peer protocol to allow transactions and transfer value in a way that we are known to transfer information, and that was missing so far on the internet. So we couldn't do that. I always say that's the HTTP status codes had this HTTP4 back then in the 90s. They were already planning to have a status code, a protocol to transfer value, but it was reserved for future use because there was never a way to do that, or a scalable or usable way to do that, a really truly independent way to do that. And with Bitcoin and Lightning, we have that now. And yeah, with Alby, we now try to build tools to make this possible and make this usable to transfer value on the web and be able to integrate Lightning into applications, and yeah, specifically any web application.
All right, cool. So you said you stopped working for the consultancy. Was that because you made it in fiat world and you just wanted to step back, take some time, or the business was heading in a direction you didn't want to take it, or Bitcoin had taken over your kind of the mind virus had started creeping in? And what, because the reason I ask is because so many people are at that point now that are listening. They're stuck in fiat land, and they hate it, and they want out, and they want to work where their passion is, and their passion is Bitcoin. And they could have been stacking away for the last, they could be a cycle deep, but it's just not quite enough. So and nobody really knows what to do. Do I do another cycle? Can I handle another cycle? Do I just pull the band-aid off? Do I hold the feet to my fire to try and find a job in Bitcoin land? And I've had so many discussions with people about this exact topic. So
yeah,
what do you have to say? What was going on in your life at that point when you stepped away from, or do you still have a foot in the fiat kind of business corporate world?
it's a hard one. It's really a hard one. So like if I would only look at the monetary aspect of it, then in retrospect, it would have been much better to just like keep working in the fiat world back then, and just buy Bitcoin from the money back then and keep it. But that was also a different time, right? So like I don't know there. So I was for me, there were a few things coming together. First of all, I've been doing that, in my point of view, similar things for quite a long time. You know, as I said, we were working on like various startup projects, different projects. They were all exciting. It's all great, but at some point, it also just becomes a bit repetitive. And so I wanted a bit of a change, look into something else. At the same time, it was like we had like the main office here in Germany. But back then I was already like traveling a lot to different places, and I was curious what technology, and especially open source technology, can do in different places. So there was also a bit the problem that most of the team was in Europe. I was traveling, so we were not super remote first company, so that was a bit of a struggle. And then I obviously wanted to learn more about Bitcoin, but I didn't have time about that. So, and it took me, I would say, a year at least to make the decision up to say, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to take a step back. I need to take some time to learn something new, and that new is more about Bitcoin. And to learn what I can do with that, and to engage with the community more. And I am in the position to do that. And like, you know, didn't have family back then and everything, so there was no big responsibility. It was just for me, so it's quite easy to do if you're alone, right? So I could do that. Was traveling a lot, as I said back then, and so yeah, so this is but it was the best decision ever. So because otherwise I would have been stuck in this cycle, and would probably do still the same thing. It could be kind of fine, but I would kind of be bored and would not have anything new and so on. So yeah, a lot of people were saying it's quite stupid to do that because the company was working well back then. You know, we were having times where we were struggling, but back then we were actually on a really good trajectory. It was very stable. We were growing. It was all great. So a lot of people were saying, like, right now when it's working, you are now saying you don't want to do that anymore. And I'm like, yes, it's like now it's getting boring and I need to learn something else. And so yeah. But it's hard to do. I think everybody has a bit of a different situation and a different story there. So, but it's challenging. But for me, it's the best decision. And when I have this conversation with people, I definitely try to encourage everybody trying to do that, because there's nothing worse than being stuck in this what is it in English? Sorry, I forgot the
Hamster
name.
wheel.
Hamster. It's in English. Yeah, hamster wheel. Hamsterrad.
Yeah.
In German, the hamster wheel, exactly. So, and it's even worse. Like you might not even notice how bad it is until you get out of it.
Mhm.
So, and
Yeah.
I always thought that you can still get back then. The worst thing is that you learn a lot, and at least you learn a lot about yourself and your life. And then the main risk that you're taking is that you might not directly be able to get into it again, but at the same time, I believe you have learned so much that probably you're in a good position to get into it again if you want.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And don't forget,
But that's to emphasize on that. That's for sure a very privileged situation also there that I'm having.
right.
So I'm very thankful that I was able to do that.
Well, you built the thing, right? You built yourself there. So it is not really privileged. I would say that's proof of work. Proof of work, and many people have that proof of work. They just don't realize what they have. And I remember when I was making my big life decision to quit my career before I even found Bitcoin, there were some dark times. that you were really facing, what am I actually doing here? Like, why am I thinking this way? How's this even going to happen? Is this just a pipe dream? And then just ripping off the band-aid and going for it. But one big realization for me was that the network that you've built up over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year career, wherever you are, it's already huge. And if you disappear for 6 to 9 months and then you realize, oh my God, I've actually got to get back on that hamster wheel, you're probably 3 phone calls away from getting straight back on it, because they want you on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that difficult to get back. And in that 6 to 9 months, my goodness, the things that you get exposed to, the things you learn, the different appreciation you gain for time, and honing your skills at something else, whatever that is, whether it's Bitcoin related or not, is massive. And I just hope more people get the confidence to do it and explore it for themselves, and especially if you've got some kind of Bitcoin project lined up. Did you have Alby in the back of your mind? Had you even found Nostr at that stage, or was this just a complete Hail Mary? I'm done. I know I want to be working in something different. I want to try and look at Bitcoin. How did all the pieces come together?
That was way before for Alby, and that was also before Lightning, actually. So before Lightning and before Nostr. So it's a while ago already. But no, there were no pieces. The pieces were just coming then while doing things, right? So I could have never thought when I did this step where I will end up. So this was not an envisioned past. This was like an exploration, right? So
it's wild to think. It's absolutely wild to think that if you'd have stayed there, you likely. No, you would have done, but like let's use a different. If somebody's just going to stay in their job and they hadn't exposed themselves fully to Bitcoin, maybe they were just like buying it and keeping it on Coinbase and whatever else, they'd still be there. They'd still be in the same position. They might not even know Nostr exists, and they certainly might not even know the Lightning Network exists. That's mad.
Yeah.
Because you decided to stay on the wheel.
Yeah. But what I think even is more there is how much more we could have can invent or do or get better in these things if people would actually then try to do it and go on this exploration and take the risk a bit and see, okay, what is out there, what I can do and learn. And everybody has these amazing ideas. And if you just see all these puzzle pieces out there, you combine them and you create something amazing. And but you don't do that that much in the hamster wheel, right? So,
when you do that risk reward analysis, again, this is something else that I went through when I was making my decision. You're like, okay, so what's the risk? I don't have a monthly salary. That's about it.
Yeah.
And what's the reward? You have no idea.
Yeah.
Like infinite opportunities,
yes.
or it's asymmetrical.
Yeah.
And like I said, after 6 or 9 months, if you don't like what is going on, that decision didn't work out, you can just throw yourself straight back on the hamster wheel, no problem.
Yeah. And that's the thing also, like when I also get asked for people, they want to get into a Bitcoin shop, and yes, it's still very small. The companies are still very young. There is not too much money going on there still. The whole ecosystem is still small. Yes, of course, there are the Coinbases and so on, and the exchange side. And I think on the mining side, there is a lot of stuff happening. I don't know that, but generally in the space that I'm in, it's still like still small. So you actually often have to put up a bit of proof of work upfront to get into it. So it's not like applying to any other fiat job. It's a bit of proof of work, probably to get there. Yeah.
So let's back up then. Before coming to Alby, you know, what what was going on for you then when, like, pre-Lightning Network, you were watching all of this kind of the block size wars play out, and where was your mind during that whole scenario?
Yeah, it was yeah, it was a bit of a different time. Yes, the block size war was quite exciting. I mean, I also remember, you know, I used, for example, did some work with Bitcoin J back then, the Java library of Mike Hearn. Back then, and Mike Hearn and Gavin back then did the Bitcoin XT kind of thing, which was the first kind of implementation that increased the block size. And I trusted them a lot, actually, I have to say. Or respected, trust is the wrong word, but I respected them a lot because, like, okay, it's interesting. This discussion comes up about the size and it kind of makes sense and so on. So it was a very interesting time. I wouldn't say I was a big blocker, but I definitely was also in the beginning a bit back and forth. I mean, that was pre-Bitcoin Cash kind of thing. That was where this early discussions came up about increasing the block size or scaling Bitcoin in general. And that's not enough because back then when I got into it, we were also saying, oh yeah, don't worry about the fees. You know, it's free. You can send money, you can send value around the world. It's kind of free. It's kind of this promise. Don't worry if the fees are low. And then suddenly we realized, actually, yeah, if more people do that, then the space is limited. And it maybe doesn't make sense that I sent this $5 kind of coffee around the make this $5 coffee transaction and put it in the blockchain. And we need to do something else there. So that was a long process. I mean, that's kind of the learning that I kind of had. I'm also a person where it's important for me to also learn by doing and like touch kind of things. So yeah, but it's still the kind of, you know, the whole ecosystem is super exciting. It will be interesting to see what we talk about in 5 years, right? When, like, also other technologies like ARC or the kind of eCash systems that are being discussed now have been evolved and how they come together and so on. So yeah, in retrospect, a lot of things are very obvious, but back then it's it's the main topic, right?
Yeah. So when Lightning Network did, you know, appear and come onto the scene, was that something that you immediately kind of like latched onto? And
I don't even remember, to be honest. It took me it took a while, but it was what I liked there rather quickly. I remember saying that, at least, that I felt like, okay, we have a very obvious scaling path. So it makes sense. Try to put like these transactions off chain, don't have it on chain, these $5 ones, have these channels, like, okay, it makes sense, the routing that we know from the internet, so on, and kind of made sense to me, even so it's like a lot of complexity there that I was and still am very scared of, to be honest. But it kind of makes sense, but I for sure saw and still see that this is the protocol that allows us to do a lot of the things that we were trying to do with Bitcoin on-chain back then, that were not possible in that way because of fees, but also because of, you know, not finite settlement, instant finite settlement directly. You needed to wait for confirmation, which maybe if you do transactions for, you know, selling digital goods and services doesn't make sense. And yeah, so there are a lot of these problems were solved, and that's why, okay, this kind of makes sense. But it took me a while also. Like I remember, it took me a while to set it up. It's quite hard to set up a node back then. I remember you could, from the Blockstream store, you could buy these stickers. I managed to set up a Lightning node, and all I got was the sticker or so, because that was the first things that you could buy from Blockstream. Which was super scary and super complicated. I don't know how many sats I lost on the way. And I also think that a lot of people right now in Lightning that still remember that are a bit burned because it was so complicated. It was much more complicated than doing on-chain, obviously, but it kind of still is complicated, but it's like day and night today. And I think a lot of the nodes on the tools to build nodes are much different today, so it's much easier.
I remember.
I think a lot of people still are so much afraid of running a node because they had this experience 2 years ago and don't want to have it again. But 2 years is so much change, and it's got so much easier.
I remember the hours I spent setting all of that up, getting it up on the node, getting it running, getting it connected, and then doing the Ring of Fire. There was this Telegram group with a Ring of Fire where you'd get like anywhere between 3 to 10 plebs together, and you'd all connect. Right, you connect to that node, then you connect to that node, and you go around in a circle, and then the last person connects to the first person. So you got this whole, oh my gosh, we spent hours and hours and hours figuring all of this out. It was great fun, just tinkering around with it and playing around, and what were the channel sizes? Like 1 million sats. You open. Yeah. And goodness knows how many of those I've still got laying around somewhere.
Yeah. We did a lot of donations to the Bitcoin network, I guess, right? By losing those also.
But yeah, you're right. Even that gave a lot of people anxiety in the end, because it just kept breaking down, and then someone's node went offline, and that just screwed everything up. And it was never, look, redesigning a monetary system or designing a monetary system was never going to be easy. But yet here we are.
Yeah.
And fast forward, now we have Nostr, and now we have your tool being built, a bridge between Bitcoin, Lightning, and Nostr, and you're sitting in between that. And I assume you're trying to. Are you trying to build a company out of that? Is that the idea, or are you just playing around, or is this something that you hope to become profitable and you can become a Bitcoin company in air quotes that can hire plebs? What's the plan?
That for sure is. I mean, we already are. So like the browser extension started as this open source project, and actually everything that we're doing is open source for sure. But that's kind of was the first things. I remember also writing the first lines of code at a Fulmo hackathon back then. Then a lot of people from the Bitcoin design community contributed to it. Actually, the B was contributed by Christoph. Big shout out to Christoph from the Bitcoin design community who did that. John's was very important back then. Because those people also saw the importance of having a tool that allows web applications to interact with the Lightning Network, because like the web platform, anything that runs in the browser, is the most accessible tool for users, but also for developers. You can easily deploy a website and everybody with a browser can visit it, right? And with that, you can like much faster work on your ideas and build applications, as opposed to if you would need to do that on like a typical Bitcoin wallet or a desktop application in that sense, because people need to download it. The barrier is much bigger. So that's what kind of the Lightning browser extension first tried to do. after then a year or so, I think, there was the time where I also had to think, okay, what is next, in the sense of, okay, what pays my rent and so on, and do we now make this something professional around, professional in the sense like of for profit around, out of that, or do I do something else again and it stays an open source side project? And the goal is, or the assumption is, if Lightning becomes the lingua franca for transacting online, then we can build tools and services, especially for that, that people value, and with that have a profitable business. So, and that's where we are currently, what we're trying to do. So it is a company now, since a while. We have a small team there. We're working on the extension still as one of the main projects, obviously, also for the Noster signing. Can talk a bit about that also in a second, where that comes from for the Lightning part. But what we recently there launched also was Alby Hub, which is our self-custodial Lightning wallet that you can run either in the cloud or on a Raspberry Pi or wherever you want, where the idea is that you have this one wallet where you have your sats, and this allows you to connect different applications to that, a Noster client, a podcast client, or whatever you want to use. So it's built around this Noster Wallet Connect protocol. So it's the core is actually that you're not interacting with the wallet directly. You're interacting with it through Noster, for example, through a Noster client, or you're interacting with it through a Bitcoin, through a podcast player or something like that. So, and yeah, with that, slowly these pieces come together, and it's still building a lot of infrastructure, and the user base has to grow a lot. The ecosystem has to grow a lot for things to become like viable there. But I think we are on a very exciting path. So there is so much possibility there. And so yes, out of the open source project, now we are kind of a company trying to provide good services that people value and pay for it.
Right. So the way that you're set up, you have like a unique view, I suppose, at Noster, at Lightning. Where are you seeing growth, and where are you seeing concerns? For me, Noster is surpassed anything that's ever been, offered up to us before, as a community of Bitcoiners that are always looking for better, more stable, more private, more communicative tools that you can use to, send across our Satoshis. We've had, if you go all the way back, we've had Sphinx Chat, we've had Mastodon, we've had Tusky, we've had Zion. Feel as though I'm missing one more. I guess you could throw Signal in there and Keybase. My God, they all came, they all went. Signal hung around, but it's not really in the same league as everything else that was being played with. And here we have Noster, and it's doing an incredible job, and people seem to love it, and people are moving there, like deleting. They're going full Nostard, as I like to say. They're deleting their Twitter, and they're going full Nostard. Yeah. And this is huge, because you've built up most people have probably built up a half decent following on Twitter, and they're taking a flyer on Noster, where you literally are right now in a pure echo chamber, because there is no homo normalis, no normies are on Noster. You have Bitcoiners and freedom-focused, privacy-focused, tech-savvy people. do you see like that trend just taking off, or like what what's your view of Noster in 2 to 5 years time? Because like you were trying to explain to Lauren earlier, it's hard explaining to normies private public key pairs, and yeah, by the way, just forget TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Signal, all of this other stuff, and just come over and hang on Noster.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge that we have to solve. I mean, it has been the challenge for ever since there's private public key cryptography, I guess. But that's for sure a challenge of explaining and educating people why it is important and what it gives to the people, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. If you don't respect that a little bit, then I think there will very likely always be tools like Twitter, for example, that might have a better user experience. So just because they are very centralized and controlled and everything is, taken care of by somebody that is operating this one server. So if you exactly want, and if you exactly want that, what this server is doing, and if you exactly are doing what that server wants you to do, then this is probably we will have a hard time to have a better user experience. So I don't think we should necessarily try to chase that. We have to embrace a bit and focus on the strength that Noster and also Lightning in the broader view gives us, that these centralized tools cannot do. And with that also comes, I think, that we need somehow to educate people why it is important that you have a key. Maybe we don't call it key, maybe we call it something else. I don't know. This is still needs to be seen, but I think people should have tiny bit of an understanding of that and the implications of it. So I didn't do a good job in explaining that. I will not be the person to do that, but I think it's gonna be important, and I think we see more and more acceptance of that. There are a lot of people critical of Twitter, for example, just because for the right or wrong reason that they like or don't like Elon. So, but even if they are a fan of Elon, they need to see that, yes, Elon is in charge. If maybe you don't like what Elon is doing tomorrow, he still will be in charge, and not you are gonna be in charge. And we see a lot of people that being deplatformed, and we see a lot of online discourse that might not be very healthy, and people are being deplatformed and canceled and so on. So I think there is a lot of conversation around that, where Noster and Lightning can help, and where it is important that in Noster that you kind of own your identity, that whatever you publish is signed by your key, and you don't need anybody else. And that's also a big difference to what we see in the Fediverse. Right, in Mastodon, if it's federated, but I still don't own my identity, so I'm still kind of exposed to just whoever runs my instance, and so I think that's an important part, but it will become so much easier, as it already did, to handle the keys and to use Noster. And we will also see how Noster can support different use cases because it's so open. So it's a simple, tiny kind of protocol that can build various different wild ideas on top of that. I, for example, are a big fan of Wavelake, what they recently launched, where they really deeply integrated Nostr and brought Nostr to an amazing podcast player, where now suddenly every comment that I do in a podcast player and every boost, as it's called there, is becoming a sub, so it's published on Nostr, and we suddenly have this interoperability across different players, which is amazing. So
yeah, I've seen that actually when people boost or message on Nostr, that shows up in my Fountain feed as well. So it's all coming together. Now, where do you stand on other layer 2 solutions, in air quotes, because that's been the story of 2024. I've got an L2 for this. I've got an L2 for that. I've got an L2 to solve this. We went from Lightning to dozens and dozens of other L2 layer 2, for those that might not be following the lingo, solutions, all of which would be built by a centralized party. What did you see? Did you have people knocking on your door trying to connect with Alby? What was going on? Because I think it's calmed down a little bit, but I'd just like to know from what you're seeing from the inside.
Actually, I don't think I'm a good person to talk to about that, because I'm very much focused on Lightning and a bit left and right there, but I'm so much focused on Lightning and whatever is interesting for the Lightning community, that I'm not so much aware of a lot of the L2s that are out there. I have to say, like, I found it always, like, and I think I said this before. Initially, I found it great because I felt like in Bitcoin we had this path of how we scale on the layer 2, and that's Lightning. Well, and it actually was different also in Ethereum or other worlds where they also had layer 2 solutions, but there was like multiple competing ones, like from the beginning. It was never clear which one like is doing what and there. And I like this about Bitcoin. Now we get more layers also on Bitcoin. I think competition is also good. So I kind of changed my mind there a little bit. And there are different use cases and so on, but I'm very much focused on Lightning. I don't see any other solution with the properties needed and the properties that we want than Lightning right now. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about Arc right now, also like from Lightning people. Cannot say too much, for sure exciting. There are amazing people working on that, just because that I already think everybody should probably look into that, because if they are doing these things, then okay, there must be something great going on. But also eCash, quite interesting, but it also has done other properties, because ultimately you only own eCash and not sats directly. We kind of again have this problem: where are the sats and how much control do I have over the sats? So yeah, so I'm not the best person to talk to about layer 2s, because I'm very much focused on Lightning still. So
Excellent.
even so, I see for us at Alby, it's also like we see us for sure a bit on a higher layer, right? It doesn't necessarily matter what's the actual layer below that, as long as it has certain properties that you can control it, that you own has the sats, that we can transact it, and so on. So some of these properties are for sure important, but ultimately then we think very much about use cases. Like, what can we do with it? Because no layer 2 and also Lightning is not standing on its own. Any payment is not standing on its own. So I'm not doing a payment for the sake of payment. I want to consume something, let's say. So I want to reward a creator. I like this post that you did on Nostr. That's why I'm sapping you, but it's not I'm just sapping you for the sake of, because I want to spend Satoshis. right? Maybe we do that we're excited about Lightning, yes, but like this is not where we will do that a bunch of times. At sometimes it will also become boring and we will stop doing it. So we will need some use cases, and this is what we have to kind of push forward and what we have to figure out.
How do you think about taking a company forward? This is self-funded, I assume, until now, or have you had seed investors? Are you looking for investors? What's the?
It was a long time self-funded, but we did a small seed round.
Right.
Already. So yeah. So we did
and that went well?
On that, yes, it went well for sure. Like we are pretty excited. We got amazing support there, and so yes. So I'm quite happy on that one. For sure, now it is the time for Lightning and for us to prove that this is where we get to, and that it's growing and it's scaling. We will see where we're gonna be in, let's say, 3 years time or so.
So who else is, where's the free market on this right now? Who would you consider to be competitors in your space that are also building the same kind of thing?
I mean, first of all, I don't think we have like Lightning on any team and any company in Lightning is a competition because it doesn't make sense. The pie is still so small. It doesn't make sense to fight over that. We're all in the game of growing the pie and increasing the ecosystem and getting more users to it, because otherwise none of the companies will succeed in that sense. So that's why I don't see like directly competition. There are a lot of projects and teams that do similar things, slightly different, right? With different approaches. That's the exciting thing. So that's what we also can learn from each other. And what I also think is it's not very clear yet what are the layers in the system. Some might become more clear. So for example, now we have more specialized LSPs, right? Let's take, for example, Breeze. I think Breeze had initially started with a wallet, a mobile wallet, and is moving more into the SDK LSP kind of side. And we have specialized LSPs now that just provide liquidity.
Just for those listening, LSP is Lightning Service Provider, and SDK Software Development Kit.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So the SDK, the software development kit, and we also have a bunch of tools there for developers to integrate Lightning into their applications. So that I have a tool to build what Lightning should do when I press the sub button, for example. How should that look like? What does it mean when I press the sub button? How does actually the sats go out of a wallet and go into another wallet? And there are like SDKs, software development kits built that make that easy for developers. And the LSPs are then the normal user, I think, might not even interact with those directly or may not be that much aware of it. But those are, for example, liquidity providers that provide the liquidity for the channels that people can connect in the network. And now there are specialized services that do exactly that. And it's not, you do a wallet and an LSP and so on. So there are more, like, this is what I mean with the layers. There are more specializations being evolving more clearly over the time, where companies are also then differentiating itself. So there's for sure, I think early on, do more similar things because the infrastructure has to be built, but then companies will specialize in certain things more than others. So we, for example, also with the browser extensions, we are very close to the user side. We are not doing an LSP. So we might integrate that. We might even not do like some of these like internal Lightning tools ourselves. Even though we built a wallet right now, we were using LDK, for example, That is the Lightning development kit, kind of again this SDK for building a Lightning wallet. So we were also just, again, standing on the shoulder of giants there that have been built this kind of tool that allows us now to use it in a certain way, to create something that is then helpful. So yeah, that's kind of how I see the space currently.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now you've got the funding in place. You've got a nice runway to look at. You can carry on building. Are you looking to hire? Are you looking to add to the team?
I mean, not actively right now. So we got a really amazing core team there, and I also think it's a marathon and not a sprint. That's why we also try to be kind of small and efficient there. It's a lot of experimentation still that is going on, where we see, okay, how is it evolving, what works, what doesn't work, and so on. Because as I said, these layers I think are also not super clear yet. And it's a marathon, so we need to still be around in a few years time. So yeah. So
Awesome.
so we're not actively looking, but good people are always needed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if anybody can add value or unlock some kind of cool feature, then I'm sure you'd be all ears to listen and discuss. And that's what I like. Your answer earlier was perfect about competition. And what I love about the Bitcoin space is collaborative rather than competitive.
Yeah.
Because you reach a certain mindset where you realize there's nothing more important for everybody involved, around the world than getting this thing right and building tools on top of it that's going to assist humanity in uplifting itself and getting themselves away from these hamster wheels and away from fiat currencies. Because if we do not do that, it just gets worse and worse and worse incrementally over time. Okay, Boomy, last question. If you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why?
I remember this morning I was thinking about that question, but now I forgot what was the result of that. But it's such an amazing question, and it's and what I think is actually, I'm not sure if I'm that excited about the orange pills, to be honest, because I think people need to discover it on their own. So it's not it's not that it should be pushed on some, at least I try to always say that I don't think it should be pushed on somebody because people need to discover it on their own pace. They need to get excited about, because otherwise it doesn't work. And I think for us it is important to provide ideas and alternatives, right? And invite people to the space, and they should find something interesting there. So, but one last pill that I would give to, and I think the obvious thing is always like somebody big with a big impact. But I think I wouldn't do that. I would really give it to one of my very dear friends that I couldn't convince yet.
Right.
So because it's also not it shouldn't come from the top. Bitcoin is a bottom-up project. It's for the people. So it would just be for any random person on the street, I would say, that I would find.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. And yeah, we all have that certain family member or that certain friend that for whatever reason we just cannot reach. And so yeah, in good time. Well, Boomy, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing everything that you shared today and what you're doing in the space to build the tools for us all to to use and try out. So if anybody listening to this hasn't tried Alby, hasn't tried Noster, I hope you've been inspired to just go and be curious and reach out. And how can people learn more about you and the project? Where can they find you?
GetAlby.com, that's the website. We're in the process of relaunching it actually, to update for all the different things that were added in the last year or so. On Noster, I think you find me on boomy@getalby.com if you search for that. I'm still on Twitter, on X too, there. So I'm not all in on Noster yet, to be honest.
Not got a full Noster.
You find me still there too. Even so, it's quite different there. Like the conversations, I think, are quite different there, which is quite interesting, and the engagements are quite different. So yeah, but that's where you find us. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
And yeah, if somebody has questions, please reach out. And yeah, thank you so much. I think it's so super important what you're doing. Spreading the word and getting people into the space, and educating, and in that way, I think is the most valuable work that needs to be done. So yeah, thank you for doing the podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you, and looking forward to meeting in person one day. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Same to you. And next time we we chat in person then there. Yeah, exactly.
With a beer. Yes.
With a beer.
See you, mate.
Good. Thank you.